guys.
Ta-da!
Yay!
Hello from stormy Northeast Florida.
Yeah, so I hear.
Yeah, we're in that time of year when it gets up to not, like 100 really fast, and then the popcorn storms. There's
Oh,
just,
wow. Oh, yeah.
did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah,
Yep.
that yesterday the storm formed across the street in that direction about 2 blocks. This one started about a block away, so there's a real chance that we could lose power. There's also a real
Uh-oh.
chance we might not. We haven't had ball lightning in a while. That's usually what knocks the power out. The transformers just all go right on down the road.
So, in other words, we might have a good podcast and we might not. Something
We're going
along
to have
those
a good
lines.
podcast either way. Okay, thank you, Aubrey. It's very sweet of you. She said that she heard me on the Fat Fuel Family podcast and loved it. It was a really good,
Nice.
great conversation with Danny and his wife Mara, and the real life intermission. And I'm not going to give away what happens because I
Oh,
want
no.
everybody to go hear it. But if you're a parent, you'll appreciate it. It,
Awesome.
it, it was real life for parents with children. That's all I'll say.
Oh, okay. I bet I know what happened then.
Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
It was a
Good.
really good time though. A very
Well,
positive
good.
conversation. Speaking of positives, man, you had quite
Yes.
the day yesterday. It
I
was
did. Yeah.
your birthday.
Yeah, big 53. Woo! Yeah, and a really exciting thing, I got to meet Mike Carnomad. I don't know if anybody follows him on Twitter or not, but he's pretty amazing. I got to meet him and his wife, and my husband Bob and we actually had an interview with him. Well, we kind of had like a group chat, and it was so fun, and it was really a great chat, but it was glitchy, and so the video is terrible and the sound is kind of off and on. I was so sad because it really was a good chat and we discussed some really good things. So I was really kind of bummed about that, but I'm really excited. I got to meet Mike and his wife, and they're actually going to go to the carnivore meet or the keto carnivore meetup on Sunday. So I'll get to see them again. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah. And you had a
Cool.
pretty exciting day too. What was yesterday
Yes, I
for you?
did. I did. And before I start talking about my day, somebody mentioned that an interview or podcast I did some time ago with Michael Anthony. I can't ever pronounce the name of his show. It has to do with Epiphany something. I can't remember how to say it. It's a real interesting, long tongue twister kind of a word. Epiphanitis. That's what he called it, epiphanitis.
Oh,
And we had a really nice long 2-hour discussion. It was a really good time. But yeah, yesterday was my 1 year carniversary. Oh my gosh. It was
very
so much
exciting.
fun. It was very exciting. It was a time for reflecting and thinking back to the very beginning. And I was able to finally post that day one picture, which I posted yesterday. That was day one, zero carb. And it was even better to post. I took that picture yesterday morning at 4:30 in the morning
Whoa.
because, well, I woke up and it dawned on me, I've got to take a picture. You can't trust the weather that you're going to be able to get outside because this time of year, storms just move in all the time.
That's crazy.
So real quick aside, somebody's asking a question. Does this live channel stay on Instagram? For 24 hours it does, but it'll be uploaded to the KetovoreKast YouTube page, which will be open starting next Monday,
Yay.
barring something unforeseen. And so it'll be up there in the very near future.
Cool.
And yesterday, I had so many people stop by to congratulate me, and I want to thank everybody, and I appreciate everybody saying that today. It's really been a blessing. And then somebody out of the goodness of their heart, Sunday morning on our way home from church, messages me and says, "Can I buy your wife a steak for your 365th day?" And I, being a semi-intelligent human being, said, "Why, certainly you may." And because I was planning on, ground beef and bacon like always, because that's the
Typical,
meat I
yeah.
crave and can afford.
Right.
But a very nice person donated some money, and they said, "Go get you a really nice ribeye." Well, my wife and I don't prefer ribeyes. We prefer T-bones or filet. So got us some, oh man, this filet mignon was spectacular. This was like meat butter.
Meat
It
butter.
was so
I like
good.
that.
Oh, it was so good. And because if I had the money, if we could afford it, I would eat that in bacon every day.
Oh, well, yeah,
I mean,
for
because,
sure. Speaking of eating, oh my goodness, we went to a
oh,
Brazilian restaurant last night. Oh heavens. I finally understand what I think you mean when you say not another bite full, because I literally left one bite on my plate because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was done. It was like, I think I understand now how you really can't overeat protein, or most people can't. I'm sure there's some that can, but I'll promise you, I cannot. There is no way. And when you pay that much, you want to get your money's worth, right? I couldn't do it.
definitely.
I couldn't do it.
You don't want to leave there thinking, I believe there was room for another 10 bites of sirloin or something that
Nope.
you really like.
Nope.
You don't want to
I
do that
literally
at those
left a
prices.
piece. It was crazy, a piece on my plate. And I was like, I would never just like a piece, just one. I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. It was so
Hey,
funny.
Roseanne, appreciate you stopping by. Roseanne's a new YouTuber. Roseanne is a
Nice.
former vegan who's now living
Oh,
and eating the carnivore way. And
very interesting.
appreciate her coming by. And matter of
Yeah,
fact, in a
thank
couple
you.
of weeks, I'm going to interview her for the Thankful
Nice.
Carnivore. So
Very
she will be
cool.
the very first vegan. I have ex-vegan. I've never spoken to anybody who was ever vegan before in this kind of a setting. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Very cool.
One of the great things about yesterday there with that steak was I did an Instagram live, and
I
my
missed it.
my my wife, well, it's been uploaded to
Yeah,
my
I'll have
YouTube
to watch
page,
it. Yes.
and people are going to watch it. There's been almost 200 people who watch that thing.
That is funny.
Uh, yes, I am too, Roseanne. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have some fun that day. Uh, anyway, my wife told me, she says, "No, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want anybody watching me eat." Okay, no problem. She wasn't the entertainer performer for all those years. It's me. But what does she start doing? She starts doing little kid stuff like holding up a piece of bacon and doing one of these numbers across the screen, like she's 12. She did finally at the end, right before I ended it. I put her head on my shoulder and said goodbye to everybody. But her presence was felt. But we had so much fun. We
That's really
laughed and
cool.
we laughed, and because when you're eating and talking, you don't eat as fast. And I had to stop in the middle and put my steak back in the microwave to heat it back up a little bit.
Microwave.
Oh yeah, well, see,
Oh.
you got to know your equipment. I know how to do that without
Okay.
causing
Ooh.
any problems. There were no bites wasted.
Well, that's good. I
But
would eat it cold.
you talk about you couldn't eat another bite. I had
Uh-huh.
like 3 pieces of bacon left, and you go and watch the video, you'll see it. I'm chewing. I put a piece of bacon in my mouth and I'm chewing it, and I hold up one more and I said, "I think this here is going to be the last piece of bacon." And then I realized, no, the one
Not.
I'm swallowing is the last piece. And I just
I understand. Believe
I
me,
looked
I
at
now
Danielle and I
understand.
said, "This has never happened to me before." That I couldn't eat all the bacon, but I
That's
ate all the
funny.
steak.
Well,
Oh, it
yeah.
was so good.
That's
Mm.
awesome. And speaking, what we were going to kind of talk about was the kindness of our community, and the fact that somebody reached out to you and paid for you to have this nice steak because they wanted you to have something good for your anniversary that's different and good. That's amazing to me. I mean, I have felt so much kindness. I mean, yesterday, all the happy birthdays and the congratulations on, my transformation and that kind of thing, it's amazing. But to have somebody, come to you and do that, that is just incredible. I think,
Yeah, I was so happy. It was a beautiful surprise, but I'm not really. It was a surprising thing, but I'm not shocked
right.
because people have been asking me for weeks, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And but people were genuinely interested, and there were some people that were very happy. I got messages saying, "We're so glad you're going to
Finally!
eat a steak. You're going to eat a steak." And then there were the people who were shocked, who were like, "I'll believe it when I see it." And it's I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. People who are not inflamed are,
Absolutely.
I believe, naturally going to be nicer, kinder, and more open. That's
Yes.
just my belief. Maybe one day somebody will do a study and figure that out. But
It
I'm
is
not
interesting.
surprised. It was a really beautiful thing that somebody did. And I know that somebody, because of the goodness that that person shared by helping me have that steak, somebody last night watching me eat that steak and hearing us goof around and be silly got something they needed out of it.
Well,
I have no
sure.
doubt.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I just think our community is so amazing. And I was talking to this with Mike last night, and, he has felt the exact same thing. And the people, I mean, KetoCon, I've mentioned before, it's like I didn't meet any strangers. We had this in common thing, and it was just amazing. And people would come up and talk to you, and, you just never really met a stranger. It's awesome. And yeah,
It's beautiful. We're
it
so
really is.
blessed. We're so
Very much
blessed
so.
to. So I'm a firm believer in people don't cross paths for no reason. Now we may never
Agree.
get to know what that reason is. Maybe
Right.
we're not supposed to. I don't know. I'm a guitar
I
player. What
believe
do I
that.
know about these transcendental philosophical things? I just eat meat and drink water and tell people about it. But every person whose path I've crossed in the carnivore community, it's always been a pleasant experience.
Yeah, so far for me too. Very
It's
pleasant.
never been a negative. Even if there
Yeah.
wasn't that much interaction there, it's always been a positive.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And with that in mind, I'm going to touch on something that you and I didn't prepare for just because it kind of came up today.
Okay.
And one of the things that I see people, some people like to experiment. We've
Hmm.
discussed the fasting issue ad nauseum.
Right.
I'm not going to talk about fasting today. But we see people experiment and they try different meats and things. That's beautiful. That's
Hmm.
wonderful. What people need to realize, though, is that when we stop consuming the toxic plants, the sugars, and the carbs, our body loses the resistance that we built up to those toxins.
Yeah,
It's not a joke. It's very much for real.
it is.
And
I've heard.
well, we have a classic example. God bless her, Michaela Peterson.
Hmm.
She got herself to Happy Land, depression gone.
Right.
But she was curious and wanted to help her dad, and she wanted to figure it out a little bit more. So she reintroduced some things. And her depression came back for a month, for 6 weeks. And
Yeah,
she was like a year before she ever got her happy all the way back again.
that's
Now,
sad.
I don't want anyone to think for a minute I'm saying to anybody, don't eat what you want to eat. You're adults. Who am I to tell you what you can and cannot put into your mouth? But
Hmm.
please, especially if you went carnivore to treat some kind of psychiatric disorder,
Yeah.
do yourself a huge favor. Research, go to Don't Eat That, Michaela Peterson's blog, and go to her Facebook group. Read what she did, read what happened. Be very, very careful.
Yeah.
I can't, warning,
Warren,
danger,
Warren,
all
Warren.
red flags,
Right.
European sirens. I can't even imitate those sounds. Please be careful. Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, something came up yesterday too. Actually, my husband brought it to my attention because I'm always saying, like, well, most people should have no issue with meat, right? Because that's like your most perfect food, right? And it's like the great elimination thing. The only people would be like the ones that got bit by that Lone Star tick, right? You've heard of that one. So that's an exception, but that's like, oh, so itty bitty teeny, right? Well, apparently there is a genetic disorder that hits 1 in 10,000 people. That's not that few, if you think about that, 1 in 10,000, where they have a genetic issue of processing too much protein. So there was a one girl who was very athletic, kind of trying to get into the bodybuilding, and she was doing the protein powders as well as eating a lot of other
No.
protein too. And she went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. And that's how they kind of, that's why that's been out in the news. I thought that was very interesting because I had never heard that.
But that's not from consuming animal protein.
I
That's
don't
from
know. I
consuming
don't know.
processed protein.
That is definitely, they brought that in the article. I don't know what else she really ate, but definitely she was doing the protein powder. Yeah.
See, I can't imagine, especially, well, after what you experienced yesterday, can you imagine eating enough meat
Yeah.
to do that to
No,
yourself?
no,
I
no.
can't comprehend it. That's the
Yeah.
one thing about eating meat. Now, what as I read a blip from the article,
Uh-oh.
and it was powder, protein powder. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you could put too much of that into your system. I mean, that's just a foreign substance. And first off, I would also want to know, did she suffer due to a protein overload of protein, or was there some other toxin in it? Because since it was processed into a powder, God only knows what else was in it.
Yeah.
Because a
That's
lot of
her
that
case though. But what about
processed
others?
processed protein, how bioavailable is it even?
I have no clue.
These
Yeah.
are questions that immediately. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. Anything's possible. My
Yeah.
gosh, if you'd have told me a year and 2 days ago that eating meat and drinking water could cure mental illness, I would have been like, yeah, I got to find out
Yeah.
firsthand about that before I believe that nonsense first. And that's really what
Exactly.
I did, was find out firsthand. Uh, Somebody saying they're okay with dairy products, but protein powders, it's Roseanne, make me sick. I used to be on 1 or 2 a day for years. The damage I must have done. Well, don't feel like the Lone Ranger, my lady, because Amber damaged herself for over 40 years. Me for
Yeah.
over 50. You stop and think
Yeah.
about it. It's a miracle any of us are still alive, considering
Seriously.
how long
I
we
just think
poisoned
about it
ourselves.
and it's like, oh my goodness, what is going on inside my body? I hope that it's healing, like, or how much more is there to heal? Because I did a lot of damage. And that's one thing we were going to talk about, actually.
That's true. It
So,
is. You want to
yeah.
just go ahead and take off with that, my
Well,
dear?
well, we kind of had discussed the other day about how some people are so strict in what you do that, if you I hate to get into this part, but like if you don't do it this way, it's not good. And some people get the philosophy of like it has to be hard. If you're not pushing yourself to the point where it's miserable, then you're really not doing anything. Well, I don't really 100% agree with that. I mean, I'm not saying don't get out of your comfort zone, don't push yourself a little harder and stuff like that, of course. But my whole experience this past 2+ years doing keto and carnivore, I've had zero misery. And I just don't think that people have to look at it like your past diets of being so miserable in order to make a change. You don't have to starve. You don't have to be deprived. You don't have to do all those miserable things that you've done before that have failed every single time, or at least it did with me. And I'm pretty sure, being that the obesity epidemic now and all the health issues we have, that, people have had the same results as me. But, it doesn't have to be miserable. And I know we kind of talked a little bit about that. What is your take on that?
Let me answer this question and then I'll
Okay.
answer that. Because somebody named T-Bone353 says, how much ground beef and bacon do I eat daily? Um, I eat right now. I'm hungry 3 times a day, most days, and so I eat, what is it, 28 ounces of ground beef every day, 8 ounces for breakfast and lunch, and then 12 ounces at dinner. And I have 8 to 10 slices of bacon for every meal. That's it every day. Yesterday being a
A little
celebratory rare
different.
day where there was filet mignon. Man, it was good. One of the things that along with what you're talking about, people seem to me there's two types that get into carnivory. There's the folks like or like me who were desperate,
Hmm.
seeking anything
Right.
because we're at wit's end. I'm so thankful I got rid of my depression symptoms, even though cannabis was helping me function at a high level. I was still inflamed. I was inflamed enough to require a natural medicine to deal with those symptoms. So there was going to be more accumulative damage if I hadn't learned about meat and water. Who knows? Maybe there comes a point in
Yeah.
time where cannabis no longer works. Who knows? Who
Right.
wants to find that out?
Not me.
And I was so blessed, and I recommend this to everybody when they first start. If you're not on Facebook, put up a fake name, join the Zeroing In on Health Facebook group where people who've been living this way for 10 years and 20 years reside. Because that's who I learned all this from. I didn't come up with this. I didn't conjure up, oh, just eat meat only when you're hungry. That's Brett's idea. No, it's not. And so it's not a dogmatic thing. This is the only way you can do this or you're not carnivore and
Right.
all that garbage.
Right.
But it's like anything else. You follow the directions, you reap the rewards. And
And
I
like you
have,
said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just, let me top that off by saying, I followed their directions. I wanted to get well. I didn't give a damn about what I wanted, how
Hmm.
I wanted. I didn't want to, what I had been doing all my life got me to the point that I'm desperate enough that eating meat, drinking
Right.
water, well, that's easy. And it's been
Yeah.
easy. And the reason it's been so easy and the reason I'm doing so well is the reason why you're doing so well. You're not playing around with it. You're not jerking around with it. You're following the directions and you're reaping the rewards. That's it. It's not mystery science theater. It's not, you have to have this enormous amount of willpower. I had the privilege of interviewing Ann Odell the other day, and she's had 3 gastric surgeries. Oh yeah, 3.
3.
Yeah, and it took her
Oh,
going
I didn't
on
know that.
keto to and she's doing great. She's losing
Hmm.
weight. She's feeling good. Brain fog's gone. She's
Right.
spectacular.
Yes.
But we talked about this, and I asked her, because she has people going, well, that's really hard. No, it's not. For you, was keto hard? Not really. What?
No, 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 it was not. The thing is, it's the whole idea behind it. And I understand because I have people coming to me pretty often now because they can, relate to the emotional issue and the addiction I had to food and how that played such a huge part of my life. But I think it's easier said than done. But if they would just give it a chance, I mean, that part where you have to just go ahead and just do it, I can see where that part's hard is make it up your mind to do it. But once you actually do it, if you just give it a chance, I mean, within the first week, and I know not everybody's the same as me, but within the first week, I knew this was different than anything I've ever had because I wasn't hungry. And I promise you, if you give it enough of a chance, that hunger isn't going to be like what you associate with other diets. Because I know a lot of people going into that keto, carnivore, whatever, they're looking at it a lot as a diet. And whether, even if it's for health reasons, they're still thinking a diet. But if you just give it a chance, just a little bit longer, it's all going to kick in. The hunger is going to go away. The cravings are going to go away. And then it becomes easy. And then it's just everyday living for you from that point on, because why would you want to go back? Because the freedom you feel from the food, not having to, just obsess about food all day long, it's amazing. It's the most freeing thing in the world. And then to be free of issues like what Brett has, that's huge, so it doesn't matter why you're doing it. It's just if you give it that chance and let it work, then it's easy. It's just like working out. The hardest part is getting your butt in gear to go to the gym or wherever it is. But once you're there, it's okay. And then afterwards you're like, yeehaw, I did it, But it's the hardest part is the start, honestly. I promise. It's not bad. It really isn't. It's not difficult.
I wanted to not be crazy more than I wanted cake. And you know what? There's no cake on planet Earth. There's no pie. There's no cherry. There's no berry. There's no apple that's going to taste good enough to put my health and sanity at risk.
Are you even craving it, though? I mean, do you even care about it?
I could care less. I haven't thought about it. Matter of fact, I've said this before. My wife and I, we go to the grocery store, and inevitably, it seems like you have to go through the cereal aisle to get to the meat department. I don't know why that is, but I could smell that sugary death smell, and it's horrible. And I used to love that. Give me a box of Captain Crunch. If it was big enough, you might not see me for 2 days.
Cocoa Pebbles, yeah.
or Lucky Charms. Oh my gosh, I would eat it all. I wanted to eat every box in the building.
Me too.
You couldn't give me that crap now for love nor money. There's no taste worth risking my sanity over. It's just.
But you still don't even have the craving for it.
No, I haven't. I stopped having cravings 10 days after I stopped putting sweet taste in my mouth.
And that's the point I'm trying to get across. That's yes. The initial part, okay, I get it, but just, oh my goodness, because like last night at the restaurant, the server brought us a dessert menu. Well, to me, dessert was everything. I didn't care about the rest of the food. Just give me dessert. Sometimes I would actually order dessert first because I hated being full and not being able to have my dessert. So both my husband and I, we just kind of laughed in the service, like, what? And Bob's like, no, thank you, and it's like, it didn't, I was curious after he took it away. I was like, I kind of wanted to look and see what it is because it just kind of amuses me in a way to look at the dessert. I don't know why, but it doesn't appeal to me. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. Somebody else could order it and eat it next to me. And it's not just because, oh my goodness, if I eat it, I'm going to have these reactions. It's, I don't care. And that is the freedom for me, because I don't have the same issues like what Brett has. But, I mean, enough to where I shouldn't be doing it, obviously.
She's saying she's not crazy deep inside. So that's what she's doing.
I might be crazy, but not on the same kind of crazy, maybe. But
somebody's like, how many pounds of beef do you eat, Brett? Well, 28 ounces of ground beef. It's simple math. There's how many ounces in a pound? Well, I believe it's 16 ounces in a pound. So you're 16 less 30 or less 28. Simple math. And bacon makes up the rest. Oh, it's so good.
Uh-huh.
As good as that filet mignon was, those 2 hamburger patties and those 2 separate piles of bacon I've had already today. Oh, my gosh. Just, spectacular. Moving along, I could talk about that steak repeatedly. It was so
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, it was so good. This notion that you've got to be miserable, that you have to suffer, is just so much nonsense. We don't have to suffer.
No, you really don't.
That's part of the status quo. We didn't get a bad roll of the genetic dice. We're not really broken. We kind of broke ourselves because we were taught to put toxins into our mouth and this is healthy.
Yeah.
No, it's not. those grains that cause inflammation that go to turn to sugar in the body as soon as they hit your gut, that's not good for any
Well,
human.
speaking of toxins being put in your body for many, many years, last week I found out my mother has breast cancer, and she's being checked for colon cancer as well. So we're dealing with that. We have a bunch of appointments coming up. She has surgery on the 24th to remove everything, and if it hasn't gone to the lymph nodes, we're probably okay. But if it has gone to the lymph nodes, it's a different ball game. So that's a little scary, and I can't help but wonder how much of that or all of it is because of the toxins we put in our body. And I say that because the surgeon, he saw the, shock on my face and the paleness or whatever, and he felt the need to come over to me and reassure me that he just said, honey, I just want you to know that what your mom has is not a genetic thing. This is something that just kind of appeared. And so that makes me really wonder why. What is it that caused that? If it's not a genetic thing or whatever, then things don't just appear, do they? I don't think so. I can't help but think it is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, we know from people like Sally Norton, and there's another gentleman whose name escapes me right now. He's brilliant on this subject of oxalates. We know that oxalates, they sit in our joints. We consume them enough through green vegetables, leafy green vegetables, things like that, and other foods, that our body can't, if our body got rid of it all at one whack, it would kill us. We couldn't survive the process. So it can only get rid of the oxalate a little bit at a time. So our body absorbs it. It sits in our joints. It sits in our brains. They become these sharp little spike things over time that cause damage and inflammation everywhere they exist, so that it could it wrecks your hormones, because your hormone, when you're inflamed, your hormones are going to be out of balance after a period of time. You can't maintain homeostasis and be inflamed all the time. It's just not biologically possible. The system's not designed to run like that. So, I believe, and plus we know that sugar the cancer cells have 3 to 5 times more glucose receptors on them than regular cells do.
Most cancers, yes, most.
And so,
yeah,
I believe it's dietary. I believe there is a genetic component for many people, but I believe it's mostly diet related. Now, I'm a guitar player. This is all my observation and opinion. So no medical advice will ever be dismissed.
Yeah, no medical advice, no.
From this
but
mouth.
It does make sense. And I actually had read the other day, too, that oxalates do come out in your breast. It just makes you wonder, because she was always one, because I come from a very, very messed up family as far as, diabetes, high blood pressure, severe obesity, severe. And my mother was the one that refused to go down that road. So she ate good salads, veggies, chicken, low fat. Yeah.
Well, as I understand it, you put her on the carnivore way of eating, didn't you?
Yep, sure did.
Good for you. That's a daughter's love in action right there. I'm telling you, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Done. I do the cooking. It's done.
Yeah. It was so hard for me with my type 2 diabetic father, who's not doing very well at all as a result, and he's 81, and it's just not a good place. And I was just it just killed me, because there's nothing I could do about it. It's his house, his rules. He's not going to eat anything he didn't want to eat. And he watched me eat. He even asked me one day, he's like, so that's really all you eat is beef and bacon like that? I said, yeah. He just looked at me like I was a Martian and walked away.
Yep. I get that a lot too.
I don't care. I'm not
I don't
depressed
either.
I'm not depressed anymore. What can somebody say to me that's really going to upset me after what I've been through?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
I'm over it. I'm free. I am free from food. I
Amen.
am, my life is just, oh my gosh, I feel like it's just starting. And, so many exciting things are happening. It's just kind of rolling along and I don't really care. I don't care what people say. I don't.
I just want to throw in, if you all have any questions, don't
Yes.
hesitate to ask. Please don't hesitate to ask. I mean, we're waxing eloquent here and having a good time, but we want you to ask questions if you have any. And if you don't have any, no sweat. Not a problem. Um, let's see, what else are we going to talk about today?
Uh, we were going to talk a little bit about the scale and of
About
using the
what? Say that
scale.
again. I misunderstood you, sweetheart.
The scale,
Oh,
weighing scale, and that's kind of funny because that was brought up last night in the podcast that I was doing with Mike and his wife, and his wife had the struggle with the scale like I did. For me, it determined what kind of day I was going to have. If I didn't lose something that day, I was beside myself. And that's ridiculous because the scale only tells this little teeny part of what's going on. But I allowed it to rule my life. And Mike's wife, the same. And she finally got to the point where she was like, it is not healthy. And she got rid of the scale. For me, I pretty much got rid of the scale. We have the scale, but I don't use it, because it will dictate how I feel. I still feel that. I'm much better now, but I'm not going to go down that road. So for me, the scale is just, I want to tell people the easiest way to do it is, I've seen this, and probably you have too, where you get a string and you put it across right where your belly button is, and you cut it. And then each week you measure it, and then you just line the string up, and then you can see visually where you're going. Because on the scale, you don't know, especially for women, good grief, with our hormones and everything else, that scale can fluctuate 7 pounds in a day. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's true. And I don't know if that ever fazed you in any way. Did you have any kind of a
I can remember
relationship?
when I was low carb and I'd started the walking and the weight was starting to come off, that it would get frustrating at times because even though intellectually I knew I was right, I was doing fine, I knew it was going to be a 3 to 5 year process for me to lose it all safely, and I was focused on losing it safely. But I can remember stepping on that scale and it going up from one day to the next, which will happen from time to
Yes.
time. And I remember it frustrating me and annoying me a little bit. And that was about the only time it ever really, the scale was never really something that determined anything more than that for me. One of the first things that they tell you when you're starting out and zeroing in on health is to stop weighing yourself. But
Yeah.
I hadn't lost my 100 pounds yet. So I kept on weighing myself because that meant something to
Right.
me. I wanted that
Right.
100-pound
Right.
mark.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that day. I woke up and I weighed 189 because in January of 2015, I weighed 289. And so this day, I can't remember what day it was in 2018, and it said 289, and I felt like I won the Super Bowl. I felt like I won the lottery. It was just like,
Yep.
but that pales in comparison to yesterday. Yesterday was so much better because I didn't know what was going to happen after that 100 pounds. I just started carnivory. There was still so much I didn't know, and I still had my symptoms, and there was so
Right.
much to learn. But we had a great question.
Yes.
Somebody saying, my wife is not fully on board with carnivore. What's your advice? We are of Mexican descent, and beans and rice are a staple. She has an issue with not eating that now. Well, if she's not on board, you can always cook your own meal. I don't think it's fair that you want to make her cook 2 meals unless it's just untenable. But, you work that out how you can, but you eat what you need to eat. Now, my wife was not carnivorous for the first month. She was low carb, and I know Bob, Amber's
It was,
husband,
yeah.
is not carnivorous yet.
Right. Right.
I say yet. I got a feeling this time next
Well,
week.
actually, and this we discussed in the podcast last night, actually. Um, Bob has an issue because he goes out to work with his team every single day of the week. Well, he can't be the one like, I can't go to that restaurant, I can't go there, I can't go there. So he goes there. So it's either he has to start fasting and watch everybody else eat, or he just makes the best choices he can. And he does that, and he does great. So that's kind of why he's more keto. However, he has agreed now, since my mom is going carnivore and I'm carnivore. So for me to have to cook, veggies or a side just for him, he's like, I'll just do carnivore at night. I can't do it all the time, but when I can, I will. So, and you don't have to, cook all the other stuff. So that's how we're dealing with that. But it just, kind of happens because my mom is now carnivore, but she was keto and she liked keto. But now, it's a different story.
Well, I will just say to that, I'll say the same thing I said to my wife after she was, I don't know, it was maybe a couple of weeks before she decided to go carnivore. I said, intellectually, there's no argument against it. All roads, if you want to be healthy, lead to meat. And I didn't say anything else about it. And she worked it out in her head. And I feel like in time, especially after Bob's watched you at it for a year,
Yeah.
his opinion about it might change completely. But to
Yeah,
get
you
back
never
to
know.
answering Wolfpack's question, yeah, somebody else is saying lead by example.
Exactly.
I agree with that entirely.
Absolutely.
My wife was not interested in going low carb until suddenly, after 3.5 years, she was no longer the skinniest one in the house. That had an impact on her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me rubbing it in. Oh, look at me, I'm skinnier than you. No, it was just she could see with her own eyeballs what was happening.
Exactly.
And she thought it would be really hard and really difficult. And of course, she found out, like we all did, that once you stop putting that crap into your body, the weight will start falling off. And then when she learned about the healing aspects and saw my depression leave and whatnot, well, she had arthritis in her shoulders. She's all on board. And leading by example is your best route to go. I mean,
Absolutely.
because ultimately, you eating meat and drinking water is going to not just make you a better person because you're not inflamed. You're going to be a better husband because you're not inflamed. You just
I
are.
believe it.
You really are. You might
Yeah.
think, well, that's not possible. We get along great now. If you get along great now, you just wait. You just wait. You can't imagine. Now that my wife's a carnivore, we have never been more on the same page in our 22 years together than we are right now. And it's only because of this way of eating that's occurred.
Yeah, well, it does definitely kind of bring you together because you have this really common thing. Even though my husband is technically keto, well, I guess he is actually ketovore now because he's, eating half carnivore, half whatever. But it is kind of a neat thing. And, just take heart. Like Brett said, especially for a woman, sees her husband looking all good and everything, she's going to be going, okay, maybe I might want to give this a try. But even though you think maybe she's not listening to you or she's not paying attention, she's paying attention. She's just not ready to hear it yet. And just don't doubt the seeds that you've planted. And, maybe eventually it'll come to fruition. So just take heart. Just do what you have to do. I mean, you can't not do you because somebody else isn't on board. So don't let that deter you. Even like Brett said, even if you have to cook your own dinner, that kind of stinks. And there's ways you can do it too, because that's what I tried to do for a while is, cook a meat to where I could either pull the meat out before I put any sauce on it or something along those lines. You can do things like that. You can make it work. It is a little more difficult. And now that I've kind of settled on what I like, which happens to be kind of what Brett likes too, the ground beef and the bacon, I know I really honestly, I was never a big ground beef person. I really wasn't. So it was kind of surprising that that's what I ended up on. And it's not just because that's the only thing I can afford. It's not even, that's not even it. It's what I want.
And
You
see,
know, who would have thought?
even there, we're doing it very differently. I mean, the bacon and what I eat is very different, very different makeup. You're mixing bison and other meats in
Yeah.
with your ground beef all the
Lamb. Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I'm just doing straight bacon and ground beef. I don't care. If it's got salt, if mine's got salt on it. And the bacon that we use, and I tell people this all the time, it's not got too much sugar in it, because the stuff with too much sugar in it browns around the edges, and we give that to the dog, and we don't buy it anymore. Okay?
Yep.
I don't worry about nitrates, don't worry about nitrites, don't worry about any of that stuff. It's meat and water. Trust your body. Follow the directions.
Exactly.
Reap the rewards. That's going to be
sure.
my first book. Follow the directions, reap the rewards. I got to make it sound a little more nifty, though. It's not as
Okay, we have about 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, don't hesitate to ask any questions.
You know you want to know something,
Coming up, we've talked about that next week. I want to let everybody know my wife is finally going to jump in and let her share her side of the story. The
Nice.
27th of July, we're going to be interviewed for the KetovoreKast together. And
Very
she'll
cool.
get to talk about her experience being married to a psycho and what that was like. And then she's going to talk primarily about her carnivore journey, because she's got quite the story to share. And then we're going to describe what life is like as a married carnivore couple. Does stevia impact fat loss? Stevia impacts the body very much the same way real sugar does. Don't put sweet taste in your mouth. I'm telling you. Thanks, Roseanne. Thanks for coming by, dear. You take care. You have a great evening.
Bye.
She's in Ireland. She's going to go make her dinner.
Nice.
I bet it's going to be really good. But sweet taste, if you're using stevia, all you're doing is setting yourself up for future failure, in my opinion. Because number one, that stevia, all those artificial sweeteners cause the same insulin spikes that real sugar did. You don't need that in your life.
It certainly can. Some people don't have the same reactions. I did not, believe it or not. And I had, meters. I didn't have my insulin checked, but my glucose never spiked. However, some people, just the little bit of sweet, no matter what it is, sends them, right down that rabbit hole. It didn't for me. And I'm free from sweets. I don't care. I don't need it. But it didn't have that effect on me. And
here's the question. Somebody's saying, but I love Zevia. I know they mean stevia. Here's the question, and this is not directed at this one individual. It's directed at everybody. Ultimately, you got to decide. Do you want to be healthy, or do you want to taste something sweet? Because you can't do both. You just really can't. You're down to meat and water and discussing these kinds of issues. You didn't get here because you're in a metabolically good place. Now, do you want to be well? Do you want to be healthy? Or do you want the sweet taste of death in your mouth to think about in your last moments?
Your favorite saying. I don't know. I think, if you're going to go carnivore, I agree with you. I do. And I think you definitely should limit it. But I also, it goes back to that whole misery thing. I mean, if that's just your one thing, you're just that, having that. And I think she's talking about the sodas with stevia in them. So it's like a soda, but I think they're gross. But anyway, if that makes you happy and you're having it, once a week or something, I don't really, and it's not causing you to have cravings and go crazy and all that weird stuff. I personally don't think it's that bad of a thing. I mean, it's, it's not like I don't know.
Okay, they just said, I can't do carbs though. One taste, I'm addicted the rest of the day. Let me
Yeah,
assure you that stevia taste is an addiction as well.
it can.
The
Yeah.
sweet taste, that sweet taste causes a reaction out of your pancreas, out of your liver, and out of your gut biome that wouldn't otherwise take place without it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not worth it. It just, everybody's different. And I know a lot of people who just cannot even have any sweet at all. I mean, next thing you know, they're just purging on everything. And that goes for carbs, period, not even just sweet. And so you can't just have that little, side thing thinking, oh, that's all good. A lot of people can't do that. So, if you're that kind of person, don't do it. Just
I'm going to
don't.
say and again, it comes down to, does what you want matter more than what you need?
Exactly. Is that little bit of taste worth something that could harm you? If you're one of those kind of people, it's just not worth it. It's just not.
Yeah, I will reiterate. The phrase "I want" has caused more human destruction across the eons than any other thing, than any war, any
That's
number of
true.
wars. I want causes human destruction every time it's put into action for the most part. But when we focus on what we need, we make better choices, in my
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for so long we haven't done that. It's more about instant gratification and pleasure, which I get it. Believe me, I was there, done that. But my decisions now, I'm not saying I don't do stuff that I shouldn't be doing, but for the most part, those things that I used to think were, so awesome, I it's not worth it to me. It's just not. But there are a few things that I might do, like have some vodka, and that's definitely not good for your body. But I understand what it does. I know the consequences. It doesn't seem to have any long term, other than that, one bad incident. But so you got to make your choices. Is it worth it to you or not? Because the long term health is where your wealth is. It really is. And I didn't understand that until I actually achieved health. I was unhealthy for so long, I didn't even understand. So, I think once you achieve health, like what Brett's achieved, he looks back and it's like, there is nothing worth it making me want to go back to that. But until you hit that point, you may not really fully get it, but there's, health is wealth. It's true.
Yeah, goodness gracious, I didn't expect, I'm 58. I didn't think 5 years ago I'd live to see 60. And now I'm
Yeah.
thinking, geez, because I've learned about this in my time, if I make it into my 80s, I'm going to be able to enjoy it because I'm not going to be all broken down. I'm not going to be on a ton of medications because I'm never going to deviate from this way of eating. There's
Yeah.
no rational reason on planet Earth for me to make a change.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
And we know from books like from Stephenson's book from the early 1900s when he was with the Inuits and the Eskimos that for almost a decade just eating meat and blubber with them, and these people were very old. It was too cold. There were no berries. There were no vegetables. It was meat or go hungry. That was it. That was all. The fat of the land. That's right. Not by bread alone. The fat of the land. It is a beautiful book. It's not very long. I highly encourage
Right.
everybody to go find it. If you join the Zeroing In on Health group, in their file section, they've got a PDF of it. You can get it for free. It's a great read. I highly recommend it. I read it during my first month, and it put some, because I was nervous. I mean, geez. I hadn't heard about eating meat, drinking water before. To me, okay, these people I respect say it's okay. Well, okay, I'm on their integrity. That's why I'm going to risk this. But I was nervous, but I trusted
Yeah.
my
Well, you hear
body.
all the bad stuff. Yeah.
And, and
Protein, too much protein is bad. It's.
oh, your kidneys are going to explode, Brett. They're just going to blow up right
Yeah.
out to your sides. They're just going to be gone.
And fat. Ooh. Yeah, no fat. No.
And of course, none of that has happened. Absolutely none of it.
Exactly.
We got
Oh,
5
fiber.
minutes left. Yeah, fiber. Oh, please. That was my note today. I rotate. Do I talk about every morning when I wake up? I share how many days it's been since I've been eating meat, drinking water, or how many days it's been since I last had any dietary fiber. Today's day number 366 with 0 dietary fiber and 0 constipation experienced.
But you really did. You just don't know it.
Yeah, that's it. My colon's full of cancer from all the meat in there rotten.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. Yeah.
A more ludicrous statement cannot be made in life, I don't think. Everybody knows that meat just sits in your body and rots.
Yeah.
0 evidence for that. 0, but yet they throw it there.
Do I only drink water? Actually, yes. I only drink water. I was having some bangs, well, 1 bang a week, but I haven't even done that in a couple of weeks. I used to have unsweetened tea, but I don't do that anymore. I used to drink coffee. I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that for, a couple of months now. So it's pretty much water. Like I said, occasionally I may put some vodka in my water, but it's water. But that's really the worst thing I do. But
hey,
yeah, water.
Soda water and vodka, that's a perfectly acceptable drink. But you have to be careful, as you well know.
Yeah.
Because when you drink the vodka or you drink the alcohol and you're on a 0 carb diet, you're going to get really drunk really quick.
Yeah, especially if you didn't feel like eating that day because you just weren't hungry, so you only had 3 pieces of bacon. Yeah, wasn't good. But I didn't dance on any table, so it was, there was that. So
thank goodness Bob was there to make sure you didn't go over the edge.
Yeah. That was not good.
I can't wait to meet him. It was so great to hear him finally speak and whatnot in that discussion yesterday. He seems like a pretty good dude. I look forward to the day I get
and
to
very
shake his hand.
supportive. And I feel very, very sad for those who don't have the support like I did. My husband has supported me. It didn't matter what diet was. It didn't matter, anything. He was always supportive. He may have kind of thought, that's maybe not the best thing for you, but he still supported me. And matter of fact, the reason why he went keto was to support me. So it would be easier for me to cook. So I would have somebody I could talk about with it. And so, I just wish everybody had the support I did.
I do wonder, though, now with the dietary changes going on at dinner time at your house, is he going to develop a love for bacon as well?
He does like bacon, but nowhere near like me.
And probably nowhere near like me. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Bacon fat for me now is the equivalent of somebody
Candy.
else's heroin. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Oh, but I'm with you there, and I would have never said that would ever happen. It's crazy.
Well, listen.
Okay. Yeah.
We
have 2
appreciate
minutes.
everybody hanging out with us. Amber's in charge. She's the one that gets to turn this off today, not me. The power is yours.
I just want to say something really quick that I thought this is amazing. I wanted to interject back when we were talking about the community. Like I mentioned the meetup that I'm hosting on this Sunday. We have 45 people signed up, and I had more people asking to come, but it had been cut off. So I opened it up, or had it opened up for more people. That is amazing. That's the first one in this area. So that's amazing. Our community is growing, and it's awesome. Anyway, on that positive note, I guess we'll end it here. Thanks, y'all, for coming. I really appreciate it, and the questions are awesome. And, okay, do your thing.
We'll see you all Friday afternoon is when we're going to do the next one.
Friday at 1, yes.
You guys be well, and, hey, be thankful.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.